Hey everyone, it's Mr. Souther coming at you with a video about lesson 8 from Unit 3, and we're going to talk about array algorithms. So this is coming up with ways on how do we kind of come up with a plan and strategy to create code that works for our clients. Okay, so first things first, what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at some code that's already given, and we're going to go ahead and run it. And the idea here is we're going to be playing with this one quite a bit for the next few modules. But once again, just like in the last two lessons, we have not one, not two, but three text files. This is going to give the amount of hours someone listened to music, what genre it was, and whether or not it had a positive effect on their mental health. Okay. So you see all these, they're going to correspond to the genre and how many hours they spent listening to it. Respondent class is going to go ahead and compile and create an object that stores those hours, genre, and the effect for each object. And guess what? Music survey is going to go ahead and compile a one-dimensional array of all those respondents into a single array of that respondent class. So basically, it's creating a one-dimensional array of just the respondent objects. Cool. I just wants to take a look, but the main thing to take a look at is down here. We're going to create different types of methods next two lessons. One will be using an if statement, a conditional statement within a for loop. That's an enhanced for loop, by the way. And then we also have something here. We're going to go ahead and take an enhanced for loop. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of take a look at that. You can see what it runs. And I believe in this case, we're just printing all of the different heavy metal stuff. Let me go ahead and finish this because I can see that I have code that I've done previously on other lessons. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of clear everything and then restart for you. All right, let me blow this up. There we go. First thing, we're going to look at the count genre method in the music survey class. So there we go, music survey. And there's count genre. Okay, count genre has a parameter. It's going to take in whatever the target genre is, whether it be rock, Latin, etc. We're going to create a counter set equal to 0, right? And then here we have that enhanced for loop. What they want us to do is basically take a look at, I'm in music survey, I'm in count genre. Um, so if we take a look at genres.txt, we should notice that there are several entries that match rock. Why do you think this is returning 0? So when I run this, they're saying there's something wrong with the code when it runs. And basically, here's what's happening. It's supposed to count how many responses of rock there are. And clearly, if you look at genre.txt, like there's a bunch of times where rock pops up, at least two times to my eyes I can see here. Okay, so here's what you need to know. The double equal sign means whether or not the two objects are the same. So in other words, are those objects existing in the same memory space or are they not? Okay. What we want to do is we don't want this because in this case, we have a one-dimensional array of genre, and there are two elements, right? Index values 1 and 8, right? Because we start counting from 0 in Java. These are going to be the same values, but where they are stored is different. In fact, you can see it right here. In element number 2, we have rock. In the ninth element, we have rock, but they are stored in two separate elements, two separate index values. So Java, when you use the double equal sign, is asking, are those the same object? Are they stored in the same place? The answer is no. So we're going to go ahead and change this. So if I change all of this, so we're going to get rid of the double equal sign. I can use this new method that's baked into Java called dot equals, use a parentheses. And if I rerun this, you'll see that the number of rock responses will go up to 3. Okay. So dot equals takes a look at each of the elements in this case and evaluates what's written there. So it's actually looking to see, is that the word rock? Yes. Oh, is this also the word rock? Yes. So it's going to go ahead and take that into consideration. Now we're going to keep going. They want us to write the get effect response in the music survey class. So let's take a look at get effect response. Here we are. First thing I'm going to notice is we have some sort of result variable looking at the result object, presumably from the respondent class, and it's equal to null. Okay, cool. And then it's going to go ahead and take into account this enhanced for loop. We just went over it last lesson. It's going to take in the one-dimensional array that's created here called answers. Right, I see it on line 6. Looking at the respondent class, so it's a array of one-dimensional objects. Going to go ahead and copy it over to response. We're going to use the dot get effect and evaluate whether or not that's equal to the target effect, which is my parameter. So if I said, hey, I want to know, is this thing target effect, is it like true? Like, is it actually working? If yes, then go ahead and return response. They want me to modify the method to be, let's see, what do they want me to do? They want me to basically get rid of this respondent result part. So let's get rid of that. And then instead of returning result or going through result, they just want us to return response if that is true. Otherwise, return null. Go and run it. See if we come across any errors. And we don't have any errors. Everything works just fine. Okay. I'm trying to see improves mental health is true. Go and finish. So what we're doing here is the double equal sign will work with Boolean, okay, because response.get effect. So if I look at get effect is in the respondent class, remember? And I'll notice that get effect is a Boolean. So this is going to either return true or false. When I go back to music survey, if I do response.get effect, that's going to be true or false. And it's checking to see if it's equals or not. So you might ask, well, what's the difference? Don't you have to use the dot equals? The answer is no, not for primitive data type. So for integers, for decimals, and for Boolean, you can go ahead and use double equals. For everything else, like text, you need to use the dot equals. Okay. Go ahead and finish it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the fourth module, go to music survey, go back to get effect response. They want me to comment out the line for return null. And see what the problem is. Let's just see what the problem is. Whoops. Obviously, I got rid of this guy, so let's get rid of it. Okay, let me just see what's going on here. Oh, I need to close out the actual method there. Okay, something's not happy. What's it not happy with? So I started the method, I started the for loop, started the if statement, we closed the if statement, we closed the for loop, we closed the method. Is there anything else I'm missing? Well, and there's your problem. It needs some sort of final return null. So that's that. So basically, it's okay. So if I let me go back, sorry. Here's how returns work within a method. So if you're going to write a method and it's going to return something, that's totally okay. We're going to always return something. We can't skip that. But here's the big part I want you to pick up on. If you're going to go ahead and use an if statement, you are okay to if so for example, if this is true on line 61, we need to return response. Okay. If this is all not true, the code is going to look for, so it's not going to, if this is not true, it'll never get to the line of code that says return response. So we really need that return null there at the end, right? Because it has to return something. If it doesn't return something, then you're going to run into problems. So that's the bottom line there. Looks like I'm missing a curly, or I put too many curly braces, but I don't want to waste too much of your time. We're going to finish up. That should run error free. So essentially what you need to know for this lesson is, let's start with preconditions. These are the conditions that must be true before you execute. And then the post condition will be a condition that must always be true after the execution. Two other things we can look at too is an error that occurs when a loop repeats one too many times or one too few is one off by one error. And then where we have an object or method that's more than one form, that's polymorphism. Let's do maximum and minimum hours. This is a classic AP Comp Sci A type of question that they love to kind of roast us on with the FRQs. Okay. So I like to look at this and show people how to do this one. So when we develop algorithms, we could do flowcharts, but a lot of people like myself like to also just write it out, almost like I'm writing my thoughts down on a piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is we've been using music survey. So here it comes again. The effects, the hours, right? The only thing different is there's no genre here, which we don't need. Okay, so respondent.java is the same, music.service is same, etc. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Music survey, when I run the constructor, is going to go ahead and take the two text files and shove it into a responses object in the one-dimensional array. So that's all done for us. We just need to find the max hours and the minimum hours and work with that. I'm going to go to musicsurvey.java, and we're going to go ahead and do, let me go ahead and get rid of all of this. Actually, let me just start over on this version history, yeah? I did this in class. I'm pretty sure I finished it, but I'll finish it here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write this find minimum hours. So when you find and return the smallest number of hours. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to delete that to do if you don't mind. And the same, I'll get to max hours in a minute. So here's how it works. So if you're going to write an algorithm, I need to think, well, how do I find the minimum amount of hours? Let's go to hours.txt. Now, what I am going to notice though is that, and I try to say in class, pretend you're a 6-year-old or you're talking to a 6-year-old. How would you have them evaluate what the smallest number is out of this array of 100 numbers? Well, the answer is you and I could do it like in 2 seconds, but for my 6-year-old, they would need to look at compare two numbers at a time. So I would look at element number one, which is 3, and element number 2, which is 1.5. Which one's smaller? Well, 1.5. Okay, moving on. Which one's smaller, 1.5 or 4? 1.5. Okay, so we'll keep 1.5 and keep going on and on and on until I get to here, right? Now we have just 1. So 1 is smaller than 1.5. So I'm going to update my lowest value to be 1. So using that same logic, right, algorithm wise, I want to traverse through the 1D array and find the minimum value compared to the previous minimum value. How we're going to do that is I know I'm going to need to write an enhanced for loop, right? Because I wanted to go ahead and run through the respondent array, which was called what up here? Responses. And we're going to run a for loop. And within that for loop, we're going to go ahead and evaluate, right, if the minimum value, if the new element I'm looking at is less than the minimum value, update minimum value. So here I'm thinking, okay, so if I have an if statement and I know that my new value is less than the minimum value that's already there for minimum, right, I'm thinking go ahead and update the minimum value. So I'm just using comments to kind of work my way through this. Okay, so I know the enhanced for loop looks good. I'm thinking I need something to store the minimum value somewhere. And these are decimals, so I'm going to do double minimum and set it. I want to set it equal to 0. I'm thinking, but guess what though? We're trying to find the minimum value. So we really don't want to set the minimum to start with as 0. In fact, what we want to do is we want it to set it to be the responses, and we want it to be whatever is in that bracket 0, that first element, right? So index value 0, and we want to do the get hours, I believe is the method here. Right there. So I want to use the get hours method. And so what this is going to do on this line is going to go ahead and create a minimum variable. That's a double data type, so decimals. It's going to access the one-dimensional array called responses, the first element or the 0th index value, grab the hours and dump it in there. So when I run this thing, minimum should start with a value of 3. Okay, so now that's set. Now I can check and see we're going to go through that 1D array, nothing new there. So if my new value is less than the minimum, well, what's the new value? That's going to be the copy. The value for copy is less than the minimum. Then I'm going to go ahead. If that's true, then we're going to go ahead and do minimum equals um, copy at that point. Okay. So minimum equals copy is what I'm thinking. Okay, and then what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and what if it's not true, for example, right? Then we have other issues. Um, and so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and also I need to return the minimum, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that while I'm at it. And I'm just checking real quick. So we did the hours, we did the for loop. And then before I forget though, I need to remember something. So remember, my copy is the array we're looking at is an object or is an array of objects. So if I just do minimum equals copy, we can't do that. We actually have to do the dot get hours again. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and dump whatever the hours is here. Also, the other thing too is here, copy is not going to work. I got to do dot get hours. Done. If none of this is true, well, it's still going to be the same. So we can still return minimum. Let me run it. And look, we have no issues here, right? So we ran it with no problems. So that's going to be the minimum value. Let's go ahead and go to survey runner. I'm going to go ahead and call the find minimum hours. So we're going to call the find minimum hours. I'm going to do the responses dot find minimum hours. And we're going to return it, right? So I can go ahead and just print it out while I'm at it. So it should print out what the number of hours is. And there we go. So 0.0 is the lowest number, which doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and find it. I did something wrong here. Oh, yeah, it is actually going to be 0. Let me just check. Oh, there you go. There is a 0.0 somewhere. There it is. So 58 had 0. Okay, so that's fine. For our maximum, it shouldn't be the same. Okay. So now for find maximum hours, we're going to do the exact same thing, basically. So you could almost copy and paste it. I'm going to go ahead and make a maximum value, set it equal to my respondent responses array list dot get hours, right? There we go. So this will be the exact same. And then I'm going to go ahead and run the enhanced for loop. So we're going to do respondent and just call it, new responses. So for each element of responses, I'm going to go ahead and run it into the 1D array called new responses. And we're going to go ahead and use the if statement to evaluate, hey, is that maximum value? Is that greater than responses dot, or it should be new responses, sorry. Get value. I'm sorry, get hours. If that's the case, then, oops, wrong curly brace. We're going to go ahead and update it with maximum is updated to be new responses dot get hours. Clearly, I can't type today. And then either way, we're going to return the maximum. So if nothing else changes, maximum is just going to be whatever the first value is. Let's go ahead and run it just to make sure there's no issues. And I'm getting no errors, which is great. We're running clean. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here, but I'm going to go ahead and call it with the find max hours. And there we go. Oh, that didn't work right. So let's go check out what's going on here because I know maximum hours is definitely bigger than the other one. So I did double maximum equals responses bracket 0 dot get hours for respondent new responses is for each element of responses. We're going to do if maximum. Oh, I'm so dumb. So yeah, so if maximum equals is greater than let me just think. So if maximum is greater than that, oh, I have this flipped. My bad. So if maximum is less than There we go. That should do it. Yep, there you go. So I just had the inequality flipped. Go ahead and test it. Let's see if it did it. Perfect. So I succeeded everything. So we're done there. So I hope this helps, and let me know if you have questions.